pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Shepherd is on the phone here, able to hear and chime in. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Ms. Frogue?
I'd like to pull 3 items from the consent agenda. One is number 1, Bo McAllister, Norton.
What letter is it?
I'm sorry, L, L1, L4, Communities and Schools, and L10, Pencil Foundation.
All right, any other questions? That is L1, L4, and L10.
And then we're going to strike item number 3 from the agenda, the operating
Yes.
budget.
You need to vote on it in the meeting.
Gotcha.
Continuation budget.
Got it.
Okay. Any other amendments? All right, Mrs. Elrod, would you mind reading the consent agenda? It's a long one.
Hey, I hope I do this right. Corey, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm not going to follow Robert's rules well on this. Okay. So the consent agenda is as read. 1A, approval of minutes from June 11th, 2019 and January 22nd, 2019. 1B, recommended award of contract for boiler upgrades at Hillwood High School, Southern Heating and Cooling Incorporated. 1C, recommended award of contract for boiler replacement at East Nashville Magnet High School, CHC Mechanical Contractors Incorporated. 1D, recommended award of contract for boiler replacement at Whitsitt Elementary School, Advanced Mechanical Contractors. E, recommended award of contract for HVAC upgrades at Charlotte Park Elementary School, Williams Mechanical. 1F, recommended award of contract for renovation of weight room to new art room at East Nashville Magnet High School, which is with the Orion Building Group. 1G, recommended approval of supplement number 1 for professional services contract for district-wide architectural services with Gilbert McLaughlin Casella PLC. 1H, recommended approval of request number 1 for purchase of commercial painting services with Warner Arts Magnet Elementary School, MNPS Services, Inc. 1I, recommended approval of request number 1 for small scope projects at various schools, Rosebake Elementary School, Site Ponding Mitigation, Southland Contractors Incorporated. 1J, recommended approval of request number 6 for small scope projects at various schools, Hull Jackson Montessori Elementary School structural repairs with Bomar Construction Company. 1K, recommended approval of request number 7 for small scope projects at various schools, Glencliff Elementary School with Southland Construction Company. And with L, we do the awarding of purchases and contracts. Continue, correct? So removing 1, 2 is California Creative Solutions Incorporated, 3, CDWG, 5, Family and Children's Service, 6, Literacy Resources Incorporated, 7, Metropolitan Nashville Education Association, 8, Microsoft Corporation, 9, Northwestern University on behalf of its School of Education and Social Policy, 11, Progeny Incorporated, 12, Teachstone Training LLC, 13, Tech Systems, and 14, Vanderbilt University for contracts. I move that we approve this consent agenda as read.
All right,
Second.
any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hands. It's unanimous. All right, so Ms. Frogue, we'll move first to L1, Bone McAllister Norton PLLC.
Okay, I don't have my iPad in front of me, so I'm gonna go from memory on these things, so correct me if I'm wrong. But this was I think a $10,000 amendment on a $100,000 contract to, I guess, revisit the findings of the HR audit and get advice. I just wanted to know what this contract is for and how much we've already spent on the Bo McAllister work.
Dr. Majors is out of town, but I'll ask Mr. Gossage if you can speak to the amendment for $10,000 to the Bo McAllister contract.
Yes. The report was completed, but with the change in the organization, both Dr. Battle and Dr. Majors need additional understanding of how this is to be applied, and this is to engage them to complete that process for them.
Okay.
And we have spent the entire $100,000.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll just move to approve the Bo McAllister contract then.
Any second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. All right, then we'll move on to L4, Communities and Schools of Tennessee.
I think, I just want to make sure that I understand this contract before we vote on it, and I think there may have been a typo on it, but my understanding of this contract is that it will apply to 12 traditional schools within the system, plus a new school that is being added as a communities and school program, that's adding a program through communities and schools. And my understanding is that there are all the schools that are participating in communities and schools are traditional schools. KIP is also participating, but they fund their own program. And so just want to make sure, because the way this is worded, it makes it appear that this applies only to 3 schools, but I think it's actually 12, and it's the second year of the communities and schools contract.
So I will ask, I think I saw Allison MacArthur, Allison back there. I believe if you look at for whom, there are 3 schools that pay for it out of their own school budgets: Bellevue Middle, DuPont Tyler, and J.T. Moore. And then there are other Title I schools that also receive those services, and I'm sure Allison has a listing of those.
Yep. So 12 schools out of federal programs, and 3 pay out of their own budget, and the 2 charters use their budget.
Okay.
Okay.
What is our overall, do we have a clear plan as to where we're going with the community schools program and how much we are planning to expand on the MNPS side versus bringing in an outside organization like this?
So last year, we had hoped to put some in the community chief's local budget, but with cuts, we just couldn't do it. So we're using federal programs funding, focusing on chronic absence with communities in schools.
Okay.
And then, so one of the pencil contracts and the Family and Children's Service contract for Family Resource Centers, we're going to work more closely with them. So we're really all trying to collaborate, share best practices, have some common practices across the district.
Okay, and it would be more expensive for us to try to bring in our own
Correct.
programs?
And
Because this
we
is
can learn
only-
from each other. I mean,
Sure.
communities in schools is nationwide. We have a lot. Pencil, Family and Children's, we all bring stuff to the table. And so we'll learn from each other and grow.
Okay, but this is a limited contract because it's focused on absenteeism more than anything else, and our Community Achieves program is more comprehensive, right?
Oh, yeah, whole school, yeah. And
Got
FRCs
it.
will be aligned with us.
Okay, all right, well, I'm going to move to approve this contract.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Again, unanimous. All right, and lastly, to L10, Pencil Foundation with 2 contracts.
Okay,
Page 25 and 26
yeah,
on the
I'm
iPad.
looking at it, I'm sorry, I had
No, you're
questions
fine.
about it. So I guess my overall concern about, so this all appears, maybe someone can just speak to this contract generally, but there is a Community Achieves portion, and then community partners, for the pencil recruiting community partners. I guess my concern is that we are paying for a lot of outside organizations to supplement our work, which is a good thing if we have sufficient funds. I know in the past that we were funding, for example, the Public Ed Foundation. I don't know if we are funding them now. And our funds went to a really extremely large salary for the director, which I think that's where the funding's going. So I just wanted to kind of hear about, I guess, the services that Pencil is providing and ensure that we're not just paying high salaries for the leaders. And this all appears to be tied together with the last contract that I questioned, so I don't know if anyone wanted to speak to.
So I'm not sure if Dr. Williams, if you're able to speak to this at this point, or Mr. Gossage, if you want to. I know Angie Adams is in the audience, if any board member wanted to hear from her.
I just came up because Chris asked me to, but
Just because it says Chief of Academics under oversight, that's the only reason.
Where does it
Well,
say
hey,
that, Chris?
welcome to the job.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff would be great. So we're in the process of, since there is no chief of schools any longer, this would be assumed under the chief of
Right.
academic officer, but I'm not
Gotcha.
knowledgeable about
Thanks.
the specific work yet.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
These are
I'll step here and give Jeff some more support.
Both of these are family resource centers that each one covers 4 schools. You'll notice a slight difference in the dollar value. That's the reason. The reason for that is Family and Children's Services is for 12 months. Pencil is for 11 months.
That's the second pencil contract that you have.
Okay.
And I think she was asking about the first pencil contract.
Right.
Okay, the first contract. All right. That is the one we have been receiving services from for some time. Yeah. And this covers a variety of recruitments. It is not just looking at, it is assisting them in doing their outreach, bringing in partners that will be doing contributions as well. It's doing training. There is an annual outreach that is done. There's also an update or report that is given annually to the district on the impact of those. But I think that probably the largest portion of that is really reaching out to those partners and pulling them in to receive resources.
Okay.
So are you saying this is the Pencil Partner Program? Was that what you're referring
Part
to
of it.
specifically?
That's part of it.
Uh-huh.
I guess I'm just concerned, since we are so underfunded, that, you know, we're paying outside organizations. Is there a way for us to start taking on some of this work ourselves? I don't know, but it did disturb me, because I think we were paying close to $300,000 for for one organization that was putting that toward a director's salary. Those are the kinds of things I'm worried about, especially if these are organizations that can raise their own money. But if this is, clearly Community Achieves and the partnerships are all good. I am in full support of that. So I guess I'm just raising that as a general concern, maybe not necessarily for this vote tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Frogue. This has been a concern for me, too. I know that we used to have reading clinics across the district, and the training and the recruitment for those, although they were touted by Pencil, the MNPS did most of the recruiting, about 90% of the recruiting, and close to 100% of the training. So I'm wondering, $125,000 a year is a lot of money, plus a 3% plus 3% each additional year, if I read the contract correctly. I'm not in favor of this. I feel like we have, in this time where our budget is so tight, that we've got to be careful and put our resources use to people that are in metro schools, that are doing the work, and not send the money out to organizations that are also raising money for their organization, which definitely benefits us, and we appreciate it. And if we had an unlimited budget, that would be great, but we don't. Money's tight. Thanks.
Go ahead.
I guess my comment there is, I hear you on the reading clinics, and I helped when I worked here before to help to try to find, help schools sort of set those up. But I think Pencil is involved in the district in a number of ways. I guess what I would love to know a little bit more about is, what is this particular funding to be designated for? And I don't know if it's appropriate to have Ms. Adams speak now, or if there are questions about how it would be utilized. I don't know.
Oh, it's my call? Oh. Ms. Adams, do you feel comfortable, or would you rather us? Okay, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. So first off, let me state that salaries of nonprofit executives are public record. So you can pull our tax return and find out that I make $130,000 a year. So that's public record, very different than what the salary of the Nashville Public Education Foundation previous CEO was making. So when I think about what Pencil's bringing to the district, we really think about it in 3 large buckets, and I'll share some numbers about those buckets with you. So first is the LP Pencil Box. So we have brokered a relationship with Louisiana Pacific, and we have a free teacher resource center. So this year alone, we've provided $1.43 million worth of free product to teachers to use in their classrooms. So that's everything from pencils, paper, copy paper, STEAM workbooks, Legos to use as incentives and manipulatives. It spans the gamut of what we're providing to teachers for their classrooms and students. When I think about pencil partnerships, the largest impact we have is we manage over 350 business partnerships with the academies of Nashville. And if you think about that career academy model, it really hinges on having businesses actively engaged with our high schools, supporting field trips, job shadows, project-based learning, and certainly with industry certification work. Having mentors who have attained those certifications, help the students study for those exams, has greatly impacted the pass rate of those exams. To Dr. Spearing's comment about the reading clinics, we were interfacing with the reading clinics, and obviously that change there with not having that same model has been challenging. There are 23 sites that we've supported this past year with recruiting volunteers and placing at those sites. We feel like we've been very successful at 10 of those sites. We actually fund 2 part-time staff members who serve 2 specific inner-city schools where there is rampant volunteerism to make sure that those volunteers are well connected to children and the maximum number of children can benefit from those reading mentoring programs. So those are the buckets, and then we've stated about the family resource centers at the 4 schools as well.
I mean, I'll say I was always a fan of Pencil and the way you all collaborate with and support us. And I know whenever I have people who just randomly email me and ask how they can volunteer, I send them straight to Pencil. You help with the background checks, you support the family resource centers. I think we can continue to have the conversations around what our funding looks like and how we can better advocate for more funding. And until that time comes, what we can do to best support our schools. But I think pulling this contract from our schools right now would leave us in a deficit because we obviously do not have the capacity within MNPS to do all the things that Pencil is helping and supporting us in doing. So for many different reasons, I would continue to support or ask that we continue to support Pencil moving forward. Ms. Elrod?
I was going to say, I have continued to be impressed with the amount of work that Pencil's able to do, and it's not work that we internally would be able to do, particularly with the amount that we pay Pencil for, and that is because that they do their own fundraising, though they cannot completely fully fund themselves. That is why they partner with us. A big thing that we hear from teachers is that, of course, they are drastically underpaid and that they do not have supports, and then a lot of times that a lot of their paycheck goes towards manipulatives, school support services, things inside their own classrooms. And Pencil is allowed to provide, of course, not all of those, but a lot of those. And that they can also provide that service that we are not able to provide, unfortunately, because we aren't giving that money to teachers. So they're able to provide those manipulatives and those types of classroom benefits. Of course, also, for my personal schools, I have very much appreciated their partnership with Tusculum Elementary. That has been very fruitful for us, and I would want that to continue. Additionally, of course, academies, I think, is something that we as a board should all be exceptionally proud of, and that those partnerships are essential to that success, and that we need to continue whatever work we need to do to make sure that those academies are successful and that those students within those academies find success as well.
Spearing?
The 3 buckets that you discussed, are those 3 buckets out of this contract?
Yes, those are all the services we provide. And so we look at this funding as supporting all of our work. We don't specifically earmark it toward one program or the other. Our mission is to support the district, and our entire budget and all of our activities do nothing but support MNPS.
And do we have staff that also supports the community partnerships that we have with the academies?
I would have to ask Dr. Williams, do you know if we have staff that?
They work closely with Pencil and our partners, but not anybody who's specifically assigned to that full-time as their full-time role.
We have, I can say we have academy coaches in each school, right, each high school, who work with Pencil and Alignment and these partners to coordinate all of these many, many moving parts. I was a former academy coach. It's complicated work, and I will say that this is you know, I think this contract speaks to, I'll just echo Rachel's comments that this is an essential decade partnership with Pencil, and appreciate your work.
Mr. Pinkston,
Motion to approve the contract.
is there a second? You get that, come here. Rachel in a second.
Sorry, second.
Any other discussion?
I just have one question. The supplies that are available for the teachers, is this an ongoing, all year long that they can get supplies from Pencil?
We're typically closed in the summer just because the teachers aren't available in the summer. But we open the end of July, and we're open all the way through the end of May. And teachers come 4 times per academic year. We actually have received funding to hire a part-time delivery driver starting in August to make proactive deliveries to schools where we know utilization is low because of the transportation challenges.
Nashville is good. Okay, Ms. Berry.
I've used the pencil box too before, and I've appreciated that being there. I wonder, those are all donations, is that correct?
They are, yes. We purchase probably $6,000 or $7,000 worth of product a year. Otherwise, we pay for shipping to access about $1.5 million worth of product a year.
And so the $125,000, can you give me some sense of where that money is going? Where does that money go?
Our full operating budget is $1.5 million. So if you look at it, our budget is much like your budget. About 85% of our budget is for staff. So partnership managers to manage those academy partnerships, partnerships with middle and elementary schools as well. Staff to run the LP pencil box so that it's open and product is moving through on a rapid basis. The family resource centers are included in that $1.5 million. And then we do have significant fundraising staff because obviously we're raising $1.3 or $4 million per year of fundraising dollars.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. 2, 4. All right, we have 7. Yep, nope, we have 6, I'm sorry. We have 6. All opposed? We have 1. All right, thank you. The motion passes. All right, and with that, we are on to number 2, charter school application recommendations for Rocketship Nashville, number 3 elementary school, NSH 3, at Nashville Collegiate Prep.
So I'll ask Dennis Queen to come and to share the recommendation from the Charter Application Review Committee.
Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, and I would say Dr. Battle, we want to thank you for the opportunity to come to you this afternoon to share with you the review team's recommendation on the Rocketship number 3 charter school application. There's a court, and I'm going to kind of walk this one time. We have a second one, and I'm going to kind of skip the review team information for time's sake. But our core team specifically is specifically trained to assess the quality and sustainability of a proposed school reviews each application. We have an extended core team that we bring together. These individuals are bring with them specific expertise in exceptional education, English language learners, business and finance, curriculum, and facilities. They also bring expertise in other areas. Finally, the review teams may also include community stakeholders and others who have experience and expertise in specialty areas. We took great strides this year to ensure that we have a wide range and diverse group of reviewers. The rating characteristics, there are 3. Number 1 is meets the standard. These demonstrate a thorough understanding, preparation, and inspires confidence and success. Partially meets standard, lacks some detail or requires more information, and does not meet standard, contains substantial gaps, and garners no confidence of success in their application. The academic plan indicators for Rocketship number 3 does meet standards. The academic program designed the Rocketship regional team was able to provide a coherent description of what the school would look like as it is meeting its goals and mission of the school. The mission and vision had goals that were aligned and identified as the focus in meeting the school's success. The description of the community where the school intends to draw students included the Antioch and Cane Ridge clusters. Also, it detailed the demographics of the students within the zone, including the percentages of economically disadvantaged English learners and students with disabilities. Substantial data was provided regarding the subgroup achievement of economically disadvantaged Black, Hispanic, and Native American and English learners of current students of Rocketship United, which has similar demographics of the proposed charter. The Rocketship regional team provided evidence of a framework for the rigorous research-based academic plan that reflects the needs of the targeted student population and is aligned with the school's stated mission and vision. A robust and quality curriculum overview supported by research with a plan for implementation that included all grades. The team provided evidence that the curriculum design is aligned with the Tennessee standards. The proposed academic plan appeared to be appropriate and effective in growing all students while at the same time closing achievement gaps. There was a description of effective methods for providing differentiated instruction to meet the needs of all students. In summary, for the academic plan, the replication application meets standard for the academic plan. While the review team had several questions developed while reading the application, these questions were answered during the capacity interview, either through the participation in the scenario exercise or direct response to questions asked by the review team. The operations plan, as reviewed by the team, meets standard. And I will not read through these slide by slide. I think you all received a comprehensive report. But the operations plan did meet standard. The financial business plan likewise met standard. In summary, for the financial business plan, all cost revenues and all major expenditures were accounted for, and were realistic. It is important to note that since the inception, both current sites have had no audit findings each year of operation. This is a replication application. It is a replication of Rocketship Northeast, Nashville Northeast, and therefore there's a past performance detail that we assess them on. They partially met standard on that. You have in front of you the report card, current report card, that addresses the item of partially meeting standard. The Rocketship number 3 application, as I've said, is a replication of the current Rocketship Northeast contract. There are only 2 years of academic data available, neither of which demonstrates meeting or exceeding standards. We acknowledge growth as exceeding standards for 2018 ELA math and science themselves fall far below standards as compared to the state. ELA and math does not meet standard, while science falls far below standard as compared to MNPS. The chart you have, the first grouping of data is how they compare to the state outcomes. You can see that they fall far below standard in ELA, math, and science. They do have a growth composite of a 5, which is the highest that you can get. Again, the concern the reviewers had is that this is 1 year of data during a year where the testing was considered to be a flawed administration. And what we look for is a pattern of performance, a pattern of achievement, a pattern of growth. Because Rocketship operates 2 schools, we wanted to put Rocketship United data up as well. Although this application is a replication of Rocketship Nashville Northeast, we wanted to share the performance summary for Rocketship United. United did not meet standard in ELA and science while meeting standards in math as compared to the state. United exceeds standards for 2018 in ELA math and science as compared to MNPS. Our primary concern is that Rocketship United's 2018 performance was for 1 year only, and during a testing year, the outcomes were counted if the school benefited only. It was deemed to be flawed testing environment by the state, and so statewide. Again, the replication application is for Rocketship Nashville Northeast, not Rocketship United. In summary, the replication application partially meets standard for the past performance detail. Any charter school wishing to replicate should demonstrate at least at or above district standards and should be over a 2 to 3 year period of time to show some sustainability. Rocketship Northeast neither performs at or above MNPS, nor is there adequate trend data to support a consistent pattern of academic progress for children. The one-year assessment outcomes at Rocketship United is promising at best, but is 1 year of data only and is not the school being replicated in this application. It is recommended that Rocketship focus on obtaining high growth and demonstrate a pattern of increased student performance over time for their current Nashville schools. Therefore, we respectfully ask the board to deny this application based on the evidence presented.
All right, do we have any questions for him or a motion?
Go ahead.
So Rocketship United was a reward school, was it not, in 2018?
They were for this past year, yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious why you didn't include that information in the presentation.
It never came up.
Didn't come up in their application?
Didn't come up in the review. I don't recall it coming up in the review team.
So that was the one area, was the past performance. So the rest of the, so do you know how they're doing this year? If you got any information on how they've done this academic year?
No, ma'am. We're hoping that we will get their state assessment data in July. We've been kind of told it may come out then. We may have access to it by August.
Otherwise, you felt that the proposal was sound besides the previous
Yes,
performance?
they met standard in the three primary areas. The past performance, again, there was 1 year. There was 1 year of promising data at the school that's not being replicated. The school being replicated was not promising, and there was only 1 year worth of data.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Spearing?
Yes, I move to deny the application for Rocketship as recommended by staff based on the evidence presented.
Is there a second? You got it, Kim. All right, any discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Queen, thank you for the team's focus on this. I think, if this operator comes back to appeal, and if they try to pursue an appeal at the state level, to Ms. Pupo-Walker's point, I think there are, other things that need to be included in the next report to the board, depending on what happens next. So, for example, there was a Rocketship school in the ASD in North Nashville that fell on its face. And so let's pull in that data and the information that we know about them, who are run by the same group of people. I'm not really impressed by the idea of a reward school. Bear in mind, New Vision Academy was a reward school not that long ago, and look what they were doing in terms of gaming the system. So I think we've got to have a healthy outlook on not sticking labels on folks, but rather looking at their actual performance. And if the replication model was Rocketship Northeast, I think, among other things, the state dinged them, not too long ago for forcing homeless students to pay for uniforms, for depriving English learners of entitled educational services and students with disabilities. So I think if they decide to come back and appeal either at the local level and or the state level, I think let's just empty our pockets about everything we know about this operator and make sure that everybody has all the information. But thank you for the work. I know it's like threading the needle to get through these things, but you guys are doing a good job with reviews.
Any other? Ms. Brogue?
Sorry. I feel like I ought to make a record of my concerns, because I think I did vote for one of the Rocketships when I first got on the board, but their business model is to put the children in front of computers for 2 to 3 hours a day, which is a good cost savings for them because they don't have to have as much staff. A few years ago, when I looked at Rocketship, it was performing in the bottom 3% of the state, and yet the state would force us to open another one here. And the other thing that has greatly disturbed me about some of these charter schools, and Rocketship follows this model, is this no excuses model, which was all the rage 7 years ago when I got on the board, and now people are starting to question it. But it really, the children are treated kind of like inmates. I mean, I know Ms. Spearing toured the school, and they're required to walk a certain way and put their eyes a certain way, and they pick up their tray and they move it here, and I just feel like it's almost abusive to children. And so I would really like for us to avoid approving schools that are using this severe no excuses model. I don't know if things have changed since I, looked at Rocketship and some other charters. I think the trend now is to move away from that. But anyway, for the record, those are my other concerns about this particular operator. That's all.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor to deny the request? And that is unanimous. All right, next recommendation, Mr. McQueen.
Again, I'll skip the first couple of introductory pages. This is a recommendation for Nashville Collegiate Prep. When we look at their academic plan, it was deemed to partially meet standards. The academic plan for Nashville College Prep partially met. Again, I will let you look, and I believe you as well got a copy of the extended report, some of the conversation behind why they partially met and did not meet. There was a lot of ambiguity and lack of clarity around some of their academic planning, RTI, to support for children, et cetera. If we go to their operations plan, they partially met standard there. Again, just a couple of comments about that. The board was very knowledgeable and able to answer most of the questions that were presented in the capacity interview on the subject of governance. The review team still has concerns since it did not appear that the board had members with financial, facilities, operations, human resources, or community engagement experience specific to the startup of a new school in the Nashville market. There were some concerns around the lack of wait list in the area they wanted to locate. Their school's under capacity already. They had a very aggressive model to start up the full school immediately. There were some serious concerns about their capacity to do that as well. So the operations partially met. In summary around that, it partially meets standard because each section lacks detail to provide a clear picture of the school's proposed operations plan. Facilities plans are unclear other than potential land locations and narratives describing potential space. A lot of information still missing. The third area is financial. The financial business plan for Journey to Success does not meet standard either. Again, the district enrollment has been flat, making the proposed projections unrealistic. No detail is provided in the assumptions column, making it impossible to fully evaluate the application. No costs for insurance are included in the year zero expenses assumptions for the 4 employees. No detail is provided on how the $257,620 in fundraising revenue to support year zero will be obtained. Plans provided for contingencies are lacking. Staffing assumptions do not comply with Tennessee education law. We continue on. Average teacher pay is projected at $43,500, which is below the pay of a first-year teacher with no advanced degrees. TCRS hybrid rate is incorrect. It is budgeted at 2%, but the actual amount is higher. So again, there's a number of financial business indicators that just don't make sense. And we just didn't see that as a viable plan. As a result, the applicant left out important state-mandated requirements, and the review team is not confident that the financial plan will support or sustain the schools. The review team had difficulty connecting the budget to specific sections of the application since conflicting and/or inaccurate information was provided. As a result, we respectfully ask the board to deny this application based on the evidence presented.
All right, any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, any questions for Mr. Queen, or I will entertain a motion.
Motion to deny.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny the request, raise your hand. Once again, unanimous. All right, thank you again, Mr. Queen, your office, and all the reviewers. All right, moving on to number 3, the 2019-2020 fiscal year operating budget. Considering that we opted for the continuation budget, we have to ratify it here on the board floor. Mrs. Shepherd, would you like to recap or say anything before we move to a motion? No, she's not there anymore. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, I will go for a motion if there's no more discussion.
I move that we pass a continuation budget until our first meeting in July or beforehand if Dr. Battle is ready to do a presentation so that we can have a presentation from the administration about finding cost savings to pay for the step raises for teachers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
All right, any discussion? All right, on that note, if you are in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. All right, and now we will start with announcements. We'll begin on this end, Ms. Bush.
I don't have any.
All right, Mrs. Spearing.
Yes. Carlisle Beasley may be a name that many of you remember. He's 83 years old, and he was the director of pupil transportation for Metro Nashville Public Schools for 33 years. From 1966 to 1999, Mr. Beasley died on Memorial Day 2019. He was a gentleman, a scholar, an incredibly gifted leader, and he was loved and respected by all. During his tenure, he was named by his peers as the president of the National Association of School Bus Administrators. He was named Man of the Year, School Transportation News editorial board member, and later was inducted into the National Association of Pupil Transportation Hall of Fame. He was responsible for implementing one of the nation's earliest desegregation plans and challenged by the fact that the district encompassed 500 square miles. According to Bill Paul, a fellow Hall of Fame member, Beasley was an icon in the industry and achieved a record of safety that unlikely will ever be surpassed. He oversaw and facilitated over 600 million rides during his storied career and never experienced one student's death. So I am bringing a notice of a motion to submit a resolution to memorialize Mr. Carlisle Beasley. And I've already worked with Dr. Battle on this. And it's my intention and my desire to name the transportation building at this location in honor of Mr. Beasley.
Thank you. Ms. Elrod. Mrs. Pupo Walker.
Okay. So I want to just give a quick report. Hillsborough construction is on track. And moving boxes and people into the second and third floors in mid-July, and that's all good stuff. And then want to welcome 2 new assistant principals, Brian Lowe to JT Moore and Beatriz Salgado to Hillsborough in the Freshman Academy.
Mrs. Frog. All right, I would just like to give the Nashville Tools for Schools a shout out. If you're not familiar with this program or this nonprofit, these are a group of mostly retired community members who volunteer between 8 and 40 hours a week to build materials and build just furniture stuff for our schools. They have built bookshelves, they've built iPad storage units, they've built couches. I mean, they've built a little bit of everything. They also, for the third year in a row, they've partnered with Belmont University, and they found placement for 109 pieces of furniture that the university is looking to replace. They've updated the furniture, they've sent it out to the schools. We just really appreciate all the work that they do for us. If you are a MNPS employee who wants to have something added to your room, whether it be furniture or bookshelving, I would definitely suggest you reach out to them. They are completely volunteer-based, so we just thank you, Nashville Tools for Schools. If there are no other items, Mrs. Frog?
There being no further business, this meeting's adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.net.